Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the July 18th, 2023 meeting of the Woods Hole Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket Steamship Authority. As we get underway here, I've got a couple of announcements. I'd like to inform everyone that Sean Driscoll, the authority's communication director, is making an audio and video recording of today's meeting. Is there anyone else making an audio recording of today's meeting? Yes, Louisa.
Louisa Hofstadter can represent.
Could you identify yourself, sir?
Same happened, same time.
Okay. If you're joining virtually, please press the raise your hand icon on the Zoom dashboard, or if you're joining by phone, by pressing *9 on your keypad. And when you are recognized, please state your name for the record. Who do we have? Mr. Creed.
David Creed, Nantucket Current.
Anybody else, Sean?
No, that's all I see.
Pursuant to section 20 of chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021 as amended, board member Maura Tierney may or may not be participating today remotely because her physical attendance today would be unreasonably difficult. She would, if she joins us, would be participating by the Zoom video conferencing app. And she will be clearly audible to us as we will be to her. As a result, if she does show up, any votes taken will be by roll call votes. Our first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the authority's meeting on June 29th, 2023. Do we have a motion on this?
I'm looking at minutes.
Second. Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
We need a roll call.
Well, she's not here, so
Oh, okay.
we don't need a roll call if she's not here
Until she.
until she shows up.
Alright.
Any opposed? Okay, that's passed unanimously. Our next item is the Port Council's report on their July 11th meeting. I see Mr. Salido is here.
Good morning, Jim. Meeting of July 11th, 2023, the meeting was called to order at 10:30 a.m. The minutes of the June 6th meeting were approved. Mr. Driscoll provided an update on the website redesign. Total project costs now stand at $2.8 million today, 92% of the revised budget spent, being 40% over budget. Mr. Cahill made a motion that the project be managed by Mr. Coleman and Mr. Higgins. Mr. Reese stated he perceived that the role of the Port Council and the board not to get into management issues. Mr. Cahill said his motion was to advise the board as to the management. Mr. Reese said his point stood and that neither body should be telling Mr. Davis how to manage the staff. Mr. Salido said because of the cost overruns with the project, he felt Port Council should weigh in on the matter. Mr. Reese suggested that the motion be reframed to express to the board a significant concerns regarding the project and requesting that the members work with the management to make sure that the project is ended in a successful manner by September. The Port Council voted 6-0 to approve Mr. Reese's motion. Ms. Sullivan updated the status of the safety quality management system. The survey had positive remarks about the authority's performance. Mr. Evanson gave PowerPoint updates on the MV Atlanta and the MV Barnstable, which are both at the Alabama shipyard in Mobile. He also gave an update on the MV Gayhead at the Thames shipyard in repairs in the one in Connecticut. Mr. Davis presented an update on the strategic planning initiative. Mr. Davis also provided an update on the authority's new electric buses. Mr. Davis provided an update on the summer operating schedule. Mr. Davis, Mr. Community, and Ms. Fletcher presented 2024 operating schedule and Section A report for review. After lengthy discussion, the Port Council voted 5-0 to recommend approval of the 2024 operating schedule and the 15 year report as presented. Mr. Roseman presented the May 2023 business summary. Mr. Roseman said that the 2002 audit report by RS and US LLP had been provided to the members and that it's returned excellent results for the authority. In response to public comments, Cape Canaveral Energy Planner for the Martha's Vineyard Commission asked if level 3 charges could be installed at Woods Hole Turning. Mr. Davis said it would be difficult to do for the transitory nature of the problem. We're going to adjourn at 11:43 a.m.
Thank you, sir. Before we continue, I'd like to introduce everyone at the front table. To my far right, we have Mark Rosen, the comptroller slash treasurer for the authority. Then we have Mark Higgins, the chief operating officer. General manager Bob Davis. Mr. Jones from Barnstable. Myself, I represent Nantucket. To my left, we have Jim Malkin, who I'm sure you all know. And then at the end of the table, we have Mr. Jeffrey, who represents Falmouth. We also have Sean Driscoll, who is the authority's communication director.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to also point out that we have Kate Warner and Ben Robinson from the Martha's Vineyard Commission. I'm not sure if there's any other public officials in the room. I don't recognize.
Thank you. So our next item is the general manager's report.
Good morning, everyone. So the first item is a website update, so I will pass that along to Sean to give a brief update.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Following approval of the change order by the board last month, the steamship authority and Stellar Elements have moved the launch date to September due to the volume and complexity of the work and testing remaining on the project. Regarding testing in the final stages of the project, myself, Mark Higgins, and incoming IT director Stephen Pullman have started working together to coordinate the final stages of the project across multiple departments, including the remaining IT work and our internal testing plan, which involves both shoreside operations and the accounting departments. Stellar Elements is continuing to address bug reports and finish development. As Mr. Toledo noted, the project cost is down to $2.8 million, and we are at 92% of the revised budget cost. And we have been continuing our public engagement ongoing via the bi-weekly e-news and website updates. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions from the board? Mr. Jeffrey?
Several questions. I guess the first is, what is the tentative launch date in September?
We're funded through September 30th. Our goal at this point is to launch September 15th, which gives us some wiggle room.
And in terms of that launch date of September 15th, has there been a draft schedule made as to what steps we need to take to roll out the training to steamship authority staff and the community?
Those are the meetings we've been having this week. So we're in the process of that. I'll have be able to send you a full report before the August board meeting to talk about it for that.
And I'd like to see at least prior to the August, or once it's done, obviously by the August meeting, an actual kind of step-by-step schedule of every step you're going to take in terms of the launch, rollout, and who is responsible for each action item.
Yeah, I have that in draft form. I'll finalize it and get it to you within the week.
I have no further questions.
Mr. Malcolm?
John, as you heard and we've discussed, we've concerning the cost overrun. As you look back on this project, you think that the issue was we underestimated or did not accurately estimate the complexity of the project in our original RFP? Or has it been an issue with the people, the consultants and the oversight? Or is it additional stuff that showed up that's impacting this whole rollout?
And Ben Kaplan is here from Stellar Elements, so he may want to speak to this as well, but in a project this size, it's never one thing. So I think that when you're laying a cutting edge technology on board multiple legacy systems and complicated business practices, I think we underestimated the complexity that it would take to meld those two together. There were several elements that contributed to that, switching the credit card processor during the process of this. We had an extended period of time of securing a content management system because of negotiations over the legal contracts. And our internal resources, while strong, we could have flown to them 2 years ago and that would have been great. So it's not one specific thing, but all of that certainly contributed to where we are. And I don't know if I missed anything or you want to add anything. I think one should come up.
I think that basically, I think you have touched on the four items which are on. Um, Looking back, I so much of this development process has been an extremely close collaboration between the Steamship Authority's IT team and our development team. The sort of the core technology of this project is an API layer, which mediates the data between the reservation system and the backend systems and the front end. In the long term, this API layer will mean that any new experience can be plugged in without sort of complex modification to what's going on at the back end. And similarly, any new reservation system or any other system can be plugged into that API layer without modification to the front end. So it's it'll have enormous benefits from a scalability perspective and from a technology risk mitigation perspective. But what it has meant is that an extraordinary amount of work has had to be done by the Steamship Authority's IT team. And it's been, for the size of the team, it's been remarkable the progress they've been able to make. They've been working really hard to build the back end side of the API layer as we've built it from it. So the API layer, the team size, third sort of reason I know we keep coming back to the change in the payment processor. And it probably sounds a little bit like we're a broken record. I can't emphasize enough how much that change affected the roadmap and affected the way that the payment processor needed to be integrated in with the reservation system. So it's really those core elements have led to this.
Can I follow up?
Yeah, go ahead.
So then my follow-up goes back to my original question. John, in your opinion, was our RFP not accurate enough? Given the things that you discovered as you went through this process and the things that you had to deal with.
So the RFP listed several APIs that were in a different state than we initially thought. Looking at the RFP and looking at our work with the Steamship Authority, I don't know if anybody could have actually getting into the system and doing the work. I don't know that anybody could have identified that. I certainly don't think we could have. The reservation system is such a legacy system. It's so complicated. It's been built up to support this complex business over the course of many years. So often the only way to uncover, and you know this, I'm sure, from your experience better than I do, the only way to uncover deficiencies in APIs or challenges that you might face is to build and prototype and iterate and work between the two teams. So did the RFP present a different picture of the APIs than what we encountered? Yes. Could that have been resolved or addressed before actually getting in there prototyping? I really do not.
Okay, so then that leads to this question. As I think you're aware, we're looking at a whole IT overview. We have a project going on now.
Yep.
How apprehensive should I be about the impact of that IT overview and what we're currently paying for and doing with our website?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I'll say before I answer, we've been working very closely with the consultants who you've brought on to do the overview. Our two offices are one block away from each other, and we've had them over with the Steamship Authority joining remotely to give them a comprehensive download of our work. You should not be apprehensive for this reason. The API layer that we're developing right now, that is really taking much longer than we expected, is the same thing that's going to make future projects take substantially less time. In addition to the API layer, we've produced what are, API documentation, what you would call Whacker documentation, which for these dozens of APIs tell any developer the data that you should expect to receive from the system when you call the API, and then the data that you can send it. Documentation isn't sexy, but it's absolutely critical for scale and for enabling future development. So as the IT consultants are looking at the system, I predict that they will determine that major changes need to be made to the backend. For the sake of scale, for the sake of de-risking the system, there's going to be a lot there. The API layer that we've implemented will mean that backend can be basically switched out without modification to the front end. And conversely, as the Steamship Authority looks at the long-term digital roadmap and building out other experiences that are going to benefit customers, the API layer and the associated documentation means that any development team now, whether it's internal Steamship Authority folks, whether it's third parties, whether it's Uber, Alexa, tell me the status of my ferry sort of thing. They will be able to integrate with this API layer and build out multiple experiences that are mediated. So it's the thing that is causing us so much pain in the short term is going to be, I think, of the most benefit to the Steamship Authority long term.
Bob, could we have an update on the IT overview at the August meeting?
Yes, intended to have that for the full council and then for the board.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so next, we have an update on the conversions of the MB Quinter and MB Barnstable. So I think Mark is down at the shipyard. Hopefully, yes.
Good morning, everyone. Greetings from Alabama Shipyard, and currently doing the conversion process down here. Maybe Sean could get the slides up. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, this is just a photo from the front end showing the positions of the vessel in the shipyard. Next photo, next slide. This picture shows we've stripped the stern and also the port and starboard side, which will show you another photograph coming up of the all the existing bulwark, etc. Next slide. This is a picture of the freight deck. As you can see on this shows the port side. Everything is removed, and you can see kind of squares on the main deck where we've cut away and ground flush a lot of the existing angle iron frame that held the previous wood batting down. Next. Just pictures, photos of some material that's part of the bulwark on the port stern side. And that's being taken off the vessel. Next. And this is a financial snapshot of the current. Maybe Bob wants to add something to that.
All right, so at this point, between the acquisition of the 3 vessels and the engineering and the construction work, we're at $20,323,000 has been expended thus far. And we expect another $27,671,000 to complete the vessels.
Questions, anything? Anyone?
Comes on the board. Mr. Jeffrey.
Just one question is, where are we in terms of schedule and progression of the conversions?
We're right on our schedule. We have we get weekly updates of the schedule and delivery time, and we're on schedule for both
Great.
cost and delivery.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Amundson. What else do we have?
Next, we have an update on the MD Gay Head Dry Dock, so it's Mark again.
Okay, while Sean is getting the slides up, the Gay Head is at Thames Shipyard in New London, Connecticut. We undocked the vessel on Monday, and we're doing final preparations for the transit to Fairhaven. Next slide, please. There's a picture of just some structural steel renewal on the port side of the vessel, showing vessel internals, renewal of transverse frames and side shell. Next slide. This is a picture of the final painting of the vessel before launching. Next slide. We did, as part of the renewal, we went through as part of a Coast Guard inspection. We have renewed the vents on, as you can see, they're silver and the goosenecks right there. We replaced approximately 38 of them. Next. So for the docking, we hull coatings, bow thruster overhaul, and structural steel renewal, and blast and coating of the hull and superstructure. Next. So the contract value for this project was $776,142. We had $26,723 coming back in total credits and change orders. So we're looking at a final value of just under $750,000. Any questions?
Questions from the board? Hearing none. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Stay cool, man.
Yep.
Okay, so next is, we just want to provide a brief update on the progress of the strategic planning initiative, and I'll follow that. So, beginning back in January, Reptilis engaged stakeholders and reviewed the organizational data to develop what they refer to as the environmental scan. And that was presented to at the joint meeting of the board and port council at their May meeting. Next. A draft strategic plan framework was developed at that May meeting, including a vision statement, the existing mission statement, identify organizational values and strategic outcome areas. Next. We've been soliciting input from the communities and other stakeholders. There was a survey, online survey, in which a total of 922 responses were submitted. There were open houses held in Falmouth, Hyannis, Nantucket, and on the Vineyard. Next. So the team will be sharing the results of the community survey, the public input at the August meeting of the port council and the board. Initially, they were expecting that this would be a joint meeting. But following the feedback that they've gotten, we'll be presenting it individually. Next. And I think, part of this will be, to work with staff and to incorporate some of the revisions that they were seeing from the input that they received on the vision and strategic outcome areas, and then to get the feedback from board council and board members at that time. They also recognize that we're in the middle of budget season, and also with the website development, that they recognize that staff is stretched at this point, so they'll be doing a pause. They refer to it as a pause, but it'll be more of a scaled back effort until October. And the next, and the plan is then to prepare something and be coming back at either the November or December meeting, probably the December meeting, because it's a joint meeting of the Port Council and the board in December. And then the budget is $230,000. We spent just over $119,000 so far, leaving a $111,000 balance.
Questions from the board? Mr. Jeffrey?
More of a request, that the board and board council have at a minimum of 2 weeks to review the proposed strategic plan before the meeting. Ideally, I would like to see the draft plan presented to the board at a board meeting, and we vote on it the following month at a board meeting in case we have any amendments or revisions suggested to it prior to coming to the board.
Yeah, and I think in talking with Julia, I think that was the plan all along, just to be presenting these, not, what they've seen, and then to give the board and Port Council an opportunity to digest that and then come back at a following meeting.
Mr. Malcolm?
But there's been, from what Julie's collected so far, has there been anything that came out of left field that you weren't anticipating from the engagements we've had?
No, yeah, I think this online survey was helpful. The in-person open houses, they said that in some regards, people were more concerned with the here and now as opposed to where are we going type thing, but they did get some valuable input from each one of those sessions. So. How widely was their agenda? It varied on the Vineyard and on the Nantucket. There was a good attendance on the Vineyard. Actually, there was 2 sessions, and then on Nantucket, there was a evening session there. They had a fairly decent turnout for that. On the mainland side, there was some people who attended, but it wasn't as robust as the Vineyard and Nantucket. Are those comments or yeah, they'll be providing that as part of the updates. Right. All right, so there's no other questions. Next item is just a quick update. We received the first of we received our first 3 electric buses to transport the customers from our parking lots. We'll be using this on the Woods Hole route, as well as the Hyannis parking operations. They're 40-foot low floor buses. They were purchased from BYD North America. This actually goes back to authorization that the board did at the end of 2021, but because of supply chain issues, we're just getting these. Actually, we received that they were delivered, but they were damaged in transit, so they had to fix them. But I believe at this point we have signed off on.
We're in the process of signing off on that.
So the next step will be to get some, we're working on the vendors setting a trainer up, so we'll be working with that trainer on getting the bus drivers updated as to the driving characteristics of these. So they have regenerative braking for the battery systems on board, so there'll be a little different driving experience for the drivers. We did receive, each of these buses cost approximately $1 million. We did receive a total of $875,000 towards the purchase of these buses. Both from the Volkswagen settlement grant program from the Mass Department of Public Department of Environmental Protection. The other was the Federal Transit Administration low and no emission program. So later this year, we do expect to take delivery of an additional 4 40-foot low floor electric shuttle buses. And these buses are actually going to be coming from Gillig. The board approved those bus purchases at the February 2022 meeting. And for a total contract price not to exceed $4 million. So again, another $1 million apiece. At that point, approximately 25% of our shuttle bus fleet will be fully electric. And just another, one of the greening efforts that we've been trying to make. So. Fortunately, the other 4, we were not successful in getting any grant monies for. So. No questions regarding that. Next item on the agenda is the proposed 2024 operating schedule and the section 15A report. So this past March, the authority placed newspaper advertisements of its proposed 2024 winter, spring, summer, and fall operating schedules for both the Martha's Vineyard route and the Nantucket route. And those schedules will run from January 4th, 2024 through January 3rd, 2025. On April 24th, the authority received a petition with respect to the proposed schedules that were signed by 112 residents, primarily from the town of Falmouth. In the petition, the residents objected to the authority's scheduling of the 5:30 a.m. freight trips from Woods Hole and from Vineyard Haven. And they requested that the authority not approve the 5:30 a.m. freight trips. On May 5th, the authority conducted a public hearing in accordance with our sections of the Enabling Act on the proposed 2024 operating schedules. Comments received regarding the proposed 2024 summer and fall operating schedules that were made at the hearing, in both writing and after the hearing, have been included in your packet, along with a transcript of that hearing. The Woods Hole residents' latest scheduling petition sets forth similar objections as has been raised on schedules for the past few years. They have suggested that there's multiple viable alternatives for off-cape freight services. They've complained about generalized health impacts. And also they've represented that the authority would only be using the newly constructed third slip for emergencies only. Yesterday we received a response from petitioners to the section 15A draft report on July 17, 2023. What we received from the petitioners claim that there's a failure to conduct a legal hearing. The Enabling Act requires us to have a hearing within a certain number of days, which we did do. The board has received the transcript of the testimony at that, and also the link to the recording that we had of that hearing. They also include that there's a report of misstatements and misrepresentations in it. Amongst the things they refer to is our E&F filing when we were doing the terminal reconstruction. The section they're referring to is a paragraph regarding the then current state of the terminal, and further along in that application identifies that the slip was going to be moved, so therefore the reasons for us only using it for emergency purposes go away because the way with Nosh on dock. They also cite a failure to consider consolidation of any freight schedules for 2024. Because of the new vessels coming online, at this point. Once those vessels do arrive and are placed in service, there's nothing that will prevent us from looking at the schedules and consolidating trips if need be, as we do to try to save fuel. They also refer to a statement that I made at the Port Council meeting regarding in the business summaries is the graphs that have been showing the truck traffic, and I mentioned at that meeting that there is space later in the day for the shipments, but they're all requesting the morning shipments to get over and get back. So they also included alternative solutions to the 5:30 a.m. schedule, which the town of Falmouth Transportation Committee proposed. We looked at the schedules on multiple occasions, and we have issues with harbor congestion and availability of dock space. Nevertheless, we remain open to and willing to discuss what impacts we have on the communities as we would in any regard. But staff is of the opinion that we should. There's a reason to support continuing the 5:30 a.m. trip. We did receive a letter from the Falmouth Select Board requesting that it be eliminated, but we also received letters from island-based the island towns requesting that we maintain that 5:30 trip along with the hospital as well. So we presented this to the Port Council at its June 11th meeting, and they voted to recommend approval of the proposed 2024 operating schedules and to adopt the section 15A report as presented, and staff is recommending that the members to vote to approve the report issued under section 15A of the Authorities Enabling Act on the proposed 2024 operating schedules of the Woods Hole Martha's Vineyard and the Nantucket Steamship Authority as presented, and to approve the proposed 2024 operating schedules for both the Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard routes covering the period January 4th, 2024 through January 3rd, 2025 as presented. And I don't know if you want me to go through the schedules that were included in your packet, if there's any need for that, or be happy to if there's a question.
Questions from the board, motions?
Sure, I'll make a motion to accept the recommendation. And I'd like to speak to that after we get there.
Is
Should
there,
that get seconded?
is there a second?
Oh, sorry.
Motion made and seconded, go ahead. Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, you said you wanted to
Okay,
speak.
number one, I've read the transcript of the meeting held with the petitioner. I sympathize with the people on Woods Hole who are concerned about growth. I sympathize with the people in Vineyard Haven who have a 5:30 vote year round, who are concerned about growth. And I sympathize with the people on Route 28 and in Hyannis who are concerned about growth. Growth is an issue in southeastern Massachusetts. It's an issue on the Cape. It's an issue on the island. You've heard me say at other meetings, I think the islands are drowning under the weight of money. The Steamship Authority can't stop that. And I once said one of the people in this whole area that the way to stop growth is we have one bridge across the canal. We choke on growth. But the issue of growth is something that is ultimately going to be controlled by the towns, our communities, and their zoning. I note that 2 days from now, Nantucket Select Board and the Island Select Boards are meeting together to talk about issues of housing, of summer, of sustainability, staffing, short-term rentals, and shark. We can't, sharks really aren't within town zoning issues, but these are common issues that all the towns face. And so I sympathize with the issue of the road. I don't like being tied up with traffic either. But this is the reality in which we live. And unfortunately, well, fortunately, growth is part of what happens. That is happening. And we on the islands have to live with that. And have to have transport management. And that's why I made the motion to accept this. And should there be a time where our select board and our police on the island and our hospital say they don't need the 530 vote, then I'm happy to revisit my position. But that time is not found.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Take a vote on this, all in favor? Aye.
All right.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, anything else, Mr. Davis?
Regarding that, no.
Okay, we have the treasurer's report. Mr. Rosen, good morning.
Morning, and I'm not gonna be able to speak as eloquently as Mr. Malcolm, unfortunately, I'm sure to follow. So business summary for the month of May. Okay, on the Vineyard Road, passengers were up 5% or just under 10,700 passengers. The Nantucket route was up 7.6% or just over 3,800 passengers. Both routes combined for the month of May were up 5.5% or 14,526 passengers. This brings the year total for both routes combined to be up just over 58,000 passengers or 7.3%. Here's a graph comparing previous year and this year for 5 months for both routes combined for passenger travel. Passenger vehicles scared for the month of May, Vineyard was up 1.2%, Nantucket was up 4.1%, and both routes combined were up 1.6% for the month, or 865 vehicles. As you can see, again, as with every month this year, the standard fares are down for the automobiles, while the excursion fares are up. And the passenger pickup trucks are up. Year to date, both routes combined are up 1% or 1,920 cars. Here's the monthly comparison, the passenger vehicles. Freight trucks for the month, both routes combined were up 8.4% or 773 vehicles, and this is all these traffic stats are one way. Vineyard route was up 9.6% and the Nantucket route was up 6.4%. Both routes combined year to date are up 7.9% or 2,856 trucks. Here's the monthly comparison for freight. Here's one of the graphs that Bob Davis referenced earlier. This is for the average vehicles per trip in each direction, where the blue is the cars departing the toll, orange is trucks departing the toll, green is the cars leaving the vineyard, and yellow is the trucks leaving the vineyard. And you see what the traffic patterns are by time of the day. This slide shows the weekday, Monday through Friday for the freight vehicles only. The blue is departing the toll and the orange is leaving the vineyard. And here's the weekend. You can see the change in travel patterns on the weekend. Just volume. Cars parked, both routes combined for the month of May are up 6.2% or 1,043 vehicles. The vineyard was up 5.4% and the Nantucket was up 9.4%. Pretty close to the passengers. Percentage wise, year to date, we're up 13.5% or just over 5,000 vehicles to both routes combined. Cars parked comparison. Trip summary. So for the month of May on the Vineyard route, we had 0 trips canceled for mechanical weather and 11 for traffic demand. And traffic demand is both for a demand basis and also if we have any crewing issues. We put those into the traffic category. Nantucket, excuse me, there's a typo on the month there, so that's May, not April. Mechanicals were down 0 and 6 trips on the left were canceled for weather on the Nantucket route. Year to date, we have 54 mechanical cancellations, 108 for weather, and 163 for traffic. And in purple, under each category, it's showing the percentage of all the trips that ran, what percentage were canceled, mechanical, weather, and traffic. So year to date, we have 0.6% trips of all the trips we've operated were mechanical, and 1.2% for weather. And as we get further along in the summer, that weather cancellation number should drop. Financial snapshot for the month of May. Operating revenue of $13,515,000 was higher than budget by $81,842. Other income was up $383,000, which was higher than budget by $257,000, and most of that is really that increases the due to interest rates. The interest rates are much higher than we budgeted for. Operating expenses of $10,413,000 was lower than budget by $416,000. And putting this together, we have a net operating income for the month of May of $3,282,000, which was higher than budget by $811,000. Year to date, our net operating loss is $5,104,000, which is lower than budget by $6.8 million, and that number is going to be decreasing first budget. As we go later on in the month. The operating revenues, automobiles, stand up there, we're down $323,000 versus budget of 7.5%, and that's really reflective of the standard fares that are priced higher than the insurgent fares. And you can see that carrying along to the year-to-date number as well. Here's a breakdown where the revenue comes from, not only for the month of May, but for year-to-date. And as we get more to the summer, you'll see the passenger revenue grab some more of that percentage. Operating expenses, fuel for the month was down $330,000 or 25.7% versus budget. We originally budgeted $3.94 a gallon. It came into $2.97. Year to date, fuel is down about 19.9% or $951,000. Right now, we're actual cost of fuel this year is just under $3.23 a gallon versus $4.03 was the budget. On the maintenance expense, we're down $1.5 million year to date, but at last month's board meetings, we approved some AC work and some work on the terminal buildings. That's the timing issue. That number will catch up. So year to date, we're down $3.8 million in the operating expenses. Here's a breakdown of for the month, the operating expenses as well year to date, where it could come from. For the month of June, on the Vineyard route, we're down 0.4% for passengers, and Nantucket was down 7.6%, and both routes combined are down 1.8%. As everyone knows, the month of June wasn't the best, not only weather, but also driving the passengers is the forecast. Vehicles carried for the month of June as well. We're down on the Vineyard route. All vehicles combined across all categories, 0.8%. And on the Nantucket run, we're up 3.3%. And that's more of the quantity is really more of it. You see the freight is down with the passenger vehicles picked it up. That's why the quantity difference is a little bit on Nantucket. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Questions from Mr. Jeffrey?
Question as to the freight trucks increase of 8.4% and more interested in the Martha's Vineyard route of 9.6. Is there a trend as to what time and what direction those increases are, or is it the way that easily report that data? And after our discussion of the schedules, it would be interesting to see what is the increase in demand or carrying capacity and what's on there.
So for last year in 2022, in that cost of service summary we went over last month, if you look at tab 5, it shows the growth was in really the two-space trucks, the 20 to 35 trucks, where the semis flat, or maybe they might have been down on top of my head, but they weren't up. But the growth last year was in smaller trucks. I'm anticipating that's really where the growth is, but I'll get a report for next month.
And I'm also asking, where is the growth in terms of our schedule? Is the growth? Is there more of a demand for more trucks coming over on a 7 a.m. ferry, or?
So what we'll do is for next month's meeting, we'll run a query Monday through Friday, because really, as you saw in the charts, it's a weekday thing. And we'll get the number of trucks that went on average for on 7 a.m., 6 a.m., and then what type of trucks were they? We can have it next month's meeting.
And then I guess the second comment in regards to the trip summary report, where we've combined cancellations under traffic for both traffic and crewing. Is there a way that we can separate that out? And canceling for traffic is good, being a good custodian of the steamship's resources. Canceling for crewing is an accurate, is a way for us to track where are we in solving the problem by staffing.
You're 100% right. It should have been adjusted, and I just ran out of time to gather a lot of that's fine.
Great, thank you.
There we go.
Mr. Jones.
I just like to make a comment on crewing, things I read, I was reading the Washington State Ferry report and their long range forecast, and they've got something like a 14 point something billion project that are going on. But they're experiencing the same problems that we are with staffing. And it's been happening the last couple of years. We're not unique in this. It's a huge problem. And I don't know where we're gonna get new candidates, when these cadets get out of Mass Maritime. A lot of them are not going into the Marine trades, they're going into a social, engineering type of problem, because they're pretty well trained, and they're getting a lot of money. So I guess all we can do is continue to see if we can upgrade the group and get their license. But it was amazing in reading this report. When they go on their schedule is about on or about. And ours measured within minutes of departure and arrivals, and we try to. So anyways, it was quite interesting because all the things we were talking about, they have 21 ships, and then we have, they're just magnified all over the place. So, but they're also dealing with anticipated payroll of 14 point something billion dollars to get this project done by 2040. And pretty interesting. And they're building a new electric ship. And it would be nice to be able to build all new boats. But we have to get, see if we can get the best deal we can on a used boat and stretch it out for another 20, 25 years. So if you get discouraged, just do that.
Bob, I had asked last week when I was over in Commerce speaking with Janice, and she's going to be pulling together a complete program on recruitment and retention that at some point will get to the board. And that's not. Maybe Janice, do you want to talk to that at all?
Sure, so I haven't really had an opportunity to mention different arguments, but that's certainly something that between human resources, operations, and with Russ's fleet operations team as well. So that's something that we can certainly put pen to paper.
So in that regard, we remain cognizant of the fact that we have an aging workforce. This year, I think we're in the area of 60 new hires on the vessel side of the operations. We don't want to run into the same situation that we're in now, where we're waiting on, pilot mate candidates to be complete testing. So the plan right now, we've already have it in motion where we're identifying candidates that would be seeking to go from ordinaries to able-bodied positions, from able-bodied positions to pilot mate positions, and from pilots to captains positions, with the intent that we'll be starting those programs here in the fall to be able to get them their all the, whether it's firefighting or rescue boat, training, followed by classwork, and then we can get them into the queue, much earlier than we did this year, into the documentation center, and now that we have some individuals we can work with on that as well, so. It's something that we continue to work on, to be able to identify, good candidates to be able to for those promotional positions. And in some regards, there's certain requirements regarding number of sea days and things like that, we're just there's a limit, but we continue to do that. I think Mr. Jones was referring to the Washington State Ferries electrification program. It's a $4.1 billion program. They have the luxury of being a division of WashDOT. And so under the Washington State Ferries model, all their capital is funded directly from the state of Washington. And I want to say that there's somewhere in a 60%, somewhere in that range in terms of fare box recovery for their rates. So in addition to the funding their entire capital program, they fund about 40% of the operations of their things. And I know, Mr. Jones pointed out, we're not unique that they're having problems, and there's other operators throughout the country that are having similar issues in terms of staffing. So, but we're trying to stay ahead of this, and we do have, it's not just the vessel side of the operations. We always struggle. We're trying to get bus drivers for our shuttle buses and things like that. So, effort all around.
I will just add one more comment that I mentioned this in the past meeting, that, for the shore side operations, as Bob just mentioned, I think we're in, I feel as though we're in a comfortable position with regard to the terminals. If the terminals, the parking lots, tend to be a bit of an issue as well as the bus drivers, but we are working on it. But I do feel confident that we have adequate staff down from the locations and that's what I do.
What else you got?
We had no procurement this month. We did all last 2 weeks ago.
Old and new business?
I have some new business. I would move that we disband the IT working group now that it's working. We don't have to have John Cahill and I work together all under the sunshine and open meeting law provision. In terms of talking about AIT, we're not talking about IT until there. So I would move that we disband the IT working group, carries online, or to the extent necessary from a parliamentary procedure, we rescind the motion that established the group just so that the group is disbanded.
So what is it? So.
We don't follow Robert's rules, we don't. All right, so then we don't have to rescind the motion. I'm just moving that we disband the IT group.
I second that.
Okay, motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nope, that's unanimous.
Congratulations, you're no longer on it.
Okay, is there any public comment? Yes, ma'am.
I have a couple of things. One thing I'm curious, the capacity of the new freight vessels, is it significantly more so than the current freight vessels?
Depends upon what you're talking about. In terms of passengers, we expect these vessels to hold 350 passengers as opposed to the Container and Gayhead hold about 140, the Sankaty holds 290. So we do expect a larger passenger capacity on those vessels. In terms of the break deck itself, the beam of these vessels is going to be 64 feet. The current beam of the Gayhead, Tamer, and Sankaty is 52 feet. So we will have an additional lane for vehicles on the break deck, but the length of the break deck themselves are essentially the same as what we have.
There's
some chapter each. So what that means is that other than for trip, for hazard trips, we're not limited like now with the drafts and what we can take for passengers on board.
So one of the comments that we frequently get is that we don't put the freight vessel schedules on our website. Because of the limited passenger capacity. Once you start taking cars, you have passenger cutoff, and we don't want people to be planning on taking those vessels. And finding out that there's a passenger cutoff, they can't get on them, so. We'll be looking at, once we get these vessels and the actual loads on them. Probably placing those on the website as well to show the availability, so.
It just seems like maybe when the new vessels are under sale or whatever you would say, that maybe this 5:30 thing could be looked at again, because I don't understand why the hospital needs the 5:30. There may be some really good reason, but I don't know it, and I feel like we need to be good stewards to our neighbors in Falmouth. I mean, they just hate this. And I feel like we gain a lot of good community feeling if we could somehow deal with this, and maybe the increased capacity, the increased lane on the freight boats would help with that. I just like to see more than a blanket statement like the Vineyard wants this and Woods Hole wants this. So I just, maybe Mark, your stuff that you produce for next month will show better how in demand that early boats are, and is there another way to solve that problem?
Yeah, as you can see in the graphs, the earlier trips are high in demand, and part of that is because some of the infrastructure, and if I may, in the vineyard, as far as deliveries and trying to, before the roads get blocked up, or when they can get over here. So they're getting on the boat at 5:30, but they're getting to the vineyard at 6:15. By the time you get to the first delivery, it's really 6:30, 7, so that's one of the points that people is part of the equation, is when do they get here and what's open and what infrastructure in place to handle the deliveries at those times, that in those business hours. But we'll put that.
Yeah, I just think like, I mean, you want to be accommodating, but you don't want, we're not a bridge, we are a ferry system, and we need to be just as accommodating of our neighbors, because that's a misery for them. Secondly, I wanted to say, Bob, I heard you say, quote, Washington State has the luxury of being part of WashDOT. So I wonder, would you like the luxury of being part of MassDOT?
That's a discussion with the board.
Good question. But I think it's worth considering, because, as the expenses of electrifying the fleet go ahead, you may very well want MassDOT to, so that you're not totally fare box reliant. And I just wonder, have you had that discussion, or is that worth further investigation?
We continue to pursue grant opportunities to be able to fund.
You
these
did
capital
use the word
projects.
luxury, so I just had to comment on it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, maybe a minor point, but it sort of fits into the bigger question. The Tisbury waterfront, there's a lot of chatter around the amount of exhaust for the island home. And it ends up on both decks across the harbor. Has the steamship authority looked into why the island home?
Yeah, so last week, we changed that projector. We did a inspection to show the ventilation and doing the island home. We did, the ejectors changed, still had the issue. So Thursday, we changed the head on one. We got a borescope, saw that we had an exhaust valve that was breaking apart. Then at that point, we do repair on Thursday too, that was the cause of the story. So it has been rectified.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, sir.
One question about bicycles on the pier in Oak Bluffs. Our passengers for C Street have to take our bicycles off and send them over the railing that separates the pier now. Then we have to go off the vehicle lanes. So we're sending our bicycle passengers on vehicle lanes. And I've discussed with Allison a little bit, but just we have concern about the safety of that and not being able to send the bicycles off the main pier Because it's we've talked about briefly, it's a compliance issue with ADA, but it's just we have concerns about that. with C Street.
So I think, part of the issue has been, how the operation has been. We understand that. There's a tendency for riders to want to ride down the passenger, walkway, and it's creates a hazard for those individuals on the bikes as well as the people who are walking back and forth. So the other issue is the traffic lane with the vehicles in terms of being able to segregate, as much as we can, the passengers and vehicles from, and bikes from the vehicles that are going on because, people's attention is diverted. And with the wooden pier, you just catch one of those planks wrong, there could be an issue. So our preference is that the people walk their bikes down through the passenger walkway as opposed to riding in one way or the other, or riding up on a traffic road.
So they can walk them down or,
They should be able to walk them back.
Right now, the policy is to walk down where the cars go.
yeah, they have to go down the car. lane.
So that's the policy that's been put in place by the policy. And
Just wondering if we got some sort of,
We'll look at it.
okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I just have a question about the website. When you are making reservations, sometimes it will say that a boat is full and other times it will just say that it's not available. So I'm curious what not available actually means and why it creates a bad customer experience. When you see that a boat is not available, is it actually full or why is it on there? It's not available.
So some of that has to do with whether if you profile as an island or if you have a preferred space. So there may be preferred space that's available, but it's not currently available because you're outside the window of the availability of it.
And it's also, if it's the day of, the standby day, a lot of times trips will be shut off in order to help control the standby lines. So that's why they. Okay, good, then that's it, then that's it.
Yes, sir, in the back.
Something like follow up to Kate's investment about the replacement rate flow capacity. But if I recall early on, Genesis with this, there was a goal of having interior seating of 200 to 300. Does that mean that you moved in the permit iteration?
The vessels right now will only have passenger seating off the main deck. In order to get that closer to 200 interior seating, we need to get an elevator to get to one level up. And because of the long lead time of that, that should be a future enhancement that we'll be looking at. But the interior seating that we'll have is going to be exceeding any of the other freight boats that we have. I think it's somewhere around 90 to 100 seats in the interior, and I think the Sankaty has somewhere in the area of 50 to 60.
Additional public comment? Do we have anybody on? No? Okay, not hearing any. I would like to entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss and review the authority strategy with respect to collective bargaining negotiations. Because a public discussion of these matters may have a detrimental effect on the authority's negotiating and bargaining positions. These matters include anticipated and ongoing negotiations with Teamsters Union Local 59, SEIU Local 888, and MEBA's District Number 1 PCD. The public disclosure of any more information with respect to these matters would compromise the purposes for which the executive session is being called. After the conclusion of the executive session, we will not reconvene in public. May I have a motion? Motion's made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.